Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Fuse to Focus with TV with Lekeisha. I am your coach, Coach Lekeisha family, and I'm so excited for you to be here today. This is going to be a great episode that we're going to talk about within understanding who we are in our likeness and kindness. Well, do me a favor for me. Can you please share this amazing episode? Definitely send in a friend, send someone in, get your pen and paper, because I promise you, you're going to love this particular conversation. I have the amazing king himself. Definitely, he's going to be able to talk about amazingness when it comes to his book, his new book. His book is called The Dream Team Family, and it's going to be an amazing conversation that we're going to have today. But I want to bring him up top the stage because you know what? He's going to introduce himself even more in this particular episode, and I promise you, you're going to definitely understand him even more just in who he is moving forward ahead. Cleet, how are you today?
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Cleeton Gumbs. This is my great friend Lekeisha. Wow, we go way back. We've done a lot of amazing work together, and I'm just so excited to be on this side of creativity. As she mentioned, I just wrote a book called Echoes of the Dream Machine, and yeah, it's an amazing book. I think it falls right in line with the amazing content Lekeisha creates, and I'm excited to dive into this conversation. This is great. Good friend, good combo. Can't beat that.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. Like literally, I'm floored right now because I'm trying to hold my peace right now because you are such a great friend. I mean, we go way back, and I really want everyone to understand just what you mean, to our brand and everything that I am. I mean, we go way back when it comes to Lekeisha Mosley Show. Let's go into that a little bit. Let's go into that.
Yes.
How should we meet Cleet first before we even go into the book? Because I'm excited.
Right. Wow, that's so long ago. I think it was a referral. I can't remember where the referral came from, but I do know you needed a website at the time. And, I am by trade, I am a web designer, graphic designer. Been doing so for, almost 18 years now. So met Lekeisha sometime during that time, over a decade ago, probably at this point. And helped her with a project. And then, just kind of for a few years there, just been her go-to guy for all of her web needs, some graphic needs at times, but definitely a lot of web needs. And I got the chance to sit front seat and watch Lekeisha evolve just as a content creator, as a leader, as a coach. And, me being a web designer, I got a chance to put a lot of that content on the web page. So I got a chance to see just the growth of her, the books she's written, and just to see the path that she's been on. So, when she reached out, I was just floored with excitement that I could come on her platform and just talk a little bit about my creative process and, this book that I had the benefit of writing. And that's kind of how we started, right? You needed some help, and I had the skill set. We partnered that way, and we just clicked. I told her, before we started this interview, I felt like we had several of these interviews just trying to work on her projects. We would always get into really good conversations. So this is going to be a breeze today. I already know it.
Absolutely. I'm so excited because, I really feel that God really knows everything, of course. And he began to let us know exactly what we need at that moment. And definitely, like you said, I needed a new website, definitely, being an author and just being able to make it go in a way that everyone can receive great value out of it. And I feel that you're doing so many great things today, which was amazing, definitely when it comes to your amazing creation, because you being an author, we got something different in common right now. Just being an author, let's go into that. Let's talk about that. Wow, the Echoes of the Dream Machine. Let's go talk about it.
Yeah, so, this has been, just being an author, period, has been a desire of mine for over a decade now. Honestly, back around the time I started seeing creators like Lekeisha herself, I'm like, wow, she wrote a book? This is crazy, how did you do that? We would have discussions about that. And I've always been, now, as I get older, I start to learn definitions for things. And I've always been a storyteller. I'm an artist, but even before being an artist, I've always been a storyteller. Friends of mine would say, man, you tell stories so well, and things of that nature. But I think there's always a disconnect with me feeling like I was a writer, right? I feel like I can tell stories, but like how I always had trouble organizing my thoughts and articulating what was going on in this brain of mine, right? So, you know, I struggled with that for several years, right? I would have these ideas. I would kind of start writing the intro or the summary of the story idea, but then I literally didn't know where to go from there. And it wasn't until recent, actually last year, I had been growing in my ability, like I said, to find words for things, how to articulate, right? How to take the creative process that I normally do for design into this storytelling space. And I started watching the documentary, and I cover this in not the documentary itself, but I covered the event in the book, Freaknik. Now, you know, I'm from the Southeast. I'm from Florida, right? And anyone who's from that area, you know that Freaknik was a really big festival in the 90s, right? And, you know, it has its reputation, you know. I was, by the time I came around, it was already over, right? But I had uncles, cousins, you know, childhood friends that went to these events, and they just raved about it, right? So I was always kind of, you know, curious about the event. So there was a documentary last year that was released on Hulu about the event. So I'm like, oh man, I get a chance to see what it was like, see some footage, like what is this thing everyone raved about? And I went to go watch this documentary, and I kid you not, within, I want to say 15 minutes of the documentary, I literally, like, the Lord downloaded a full story to me. Like, I saw the two main characters in this story, Zion and Rottney. And I literally had to pause the documentary, and I just started writing the same way I would write, you know, these summaries. But this time, like, I had the structure. I had the beginning of the story, the middle, and the end. And that kind of started my journey. And a year later, the book is released. So, you know, it was an extraordinary, because I literally saw the story. I saw the struggle they went through. I saw, you know, it was like I was watching a movie within the movie, you know, and I was able to finally capture my thoughts, finally have the resources, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit, but have the resources to figure out how to structure my thoughts and to create a full novel, as opposed to just being stuck on where to start, you know? So that's how I landed with the book. And this has just begun, you know, I'm already working on my next book. So we'll talk more about that, but the process, I'm in it now. I've learned the process. So the engine is on now, you know?
Isn't that amazing just how the momentum starts, you know, as you begin to start on this journey? I mean, I'm loving this, just how you were able to put everything together. You know, let's talk about that. Just how you began to put it together, how it began to unload for yourself, you know, how you know, started a process, you know, being from South Florida, having a great time down there, and just now being, sometimes when we think about book, we think of the pages, but it was something before that, you know, having the book, putting it together, and you saying, like, I feel that you see something bigger. Like, what are you seeing when it comes to the characters in this book? Like, what were you seeing? Were you seeing, like, what were you seeing? The screenplay. I mean, I'm feeling that it's bigger than that. You know, let's talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. I think, you know, like is happening with so many stories that are being told. There's a perspective of, you know, the Black experience that I think that doesn't get a chance to be told on the main screen. And, I find that with this story and all of my books, I'm going to have some form of my life experience in it. And I think that's what I got a chance to do with these characters. And to your point, there is a bigger story being told, right? There is this whole narrative of, you know, the trauma that we experience in, you know, growing up in, you know, I'm a millennial, right? So I grew up in the 90s, and, you know, there's a lot of we say it all the time, millennials, we've literally gone through it all, right? We've been through wars, now a pandemic, right? We've gone through 9/11, right? We've gone through all these different traumatic experiences, and they've shaped our worldview. And what I'm attempting to do with this book and all of the stories I tell is kind of bring in that lens and that filter to show, like, although there's a lot of trauma that we may experience in life, that there's always a path out of it, right? There's always a path forward. And, you know, the good thing about being an author is you can tell a story and you can give the characters a suitable end, right? I'm one of those storytellers that I love to give that righteous, that suitable ending to a story. I don't like to leave the cliffhanger like, did they die? Or, you know, did their world end? Like, no, like, since I'm the author, I get to give them the respectable ending. And some of my favorite authors, they do the same thing. So, you know, I want to pay it forward with that. But yeah, that's the bigger story that I'm trying to tell there. It's just, you know, you know, there's going to be a lot of me in these stories, a lot of me in these characters, and a lot of the fantasy, I would guess you would say, like, you know, obviously I have a beautiful story on how I met my wife and how we, you know, have been able to raise our family. But there's also different fantasies of, like, well, what if I would have met, you know, a childhood friend and stuff like that? What if I would have met, you know, someone if I went abroad, right? So you get this chance to explore these different versions of, you know, what love is and what, you know, finding that soulmate is. So, and that is, there is a little bit of that in this book, which I was thankfully able to squeeze in there, and also tackle the bigger subject of, you know, brotherly love, of you know, of injustice and dealing with the broader things we face with this country. So it's a lot of themes rolling in this story, but I think it captures all readers, right? I really do think, like, there's stuff that could be very specific to our culture as African Americans, but then there's also just a broader concept of, like, am I my brother's keeper, right? You'll see when you open the book, it's one of the first things you see there, and that theme is kind of explored throughout the whole story, along with keeping the dream alive. So
yeah, I was really seeing so many things that were happening within the book. I mean, I was just like, wow, I felt like I was just in the movie myself, you know, just being, I mean, I'm serious. I was being in the courtroom, you know, just being able to, you know, like, you know, talk about how I want to save my life. And then going into the family, the love, my love interest. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this saga. What was happening here?
Oh man, this is good. I'm so grateful you were able to, you know, dive into the story. I really appreciate that. So the story, you know, it centers around these two characters. You have Zion and Rottney, right? They're childhood friends. And to your point, the question you asked was amazing, because they're actually from Miami, where I'm from. So I wanted to bring that perspective, because we don't always get to tell that perspective, right? So they're from Miami, and they're dreamers, they're filmmakers, right? So you see a little bit of me in there, right? They have this colossal dream, right? And kind of ties into the theme of the story itself, Dream Machine, right? So they actually have this physical vehicle that they sit into, and where they dream about their whole future, right? They were able to get it because Zion's dad had a auto repair shop, right? So just thinking about growing up in the inner city, you don't have a lot of funds, you don't have a lot of money. But these two kids were able to stumble across a vehicle because one of their dads had a repair shop. The guy who owned the vehicle passed away, and they stumbled across this vehicle. So now they have this vehicle they can get around. They're in their senior year of high school, right? And they just have big visions. So they're working on stories, and they're planning their life out, and they're applying to the schools they want to go to. And they're in the inner city, they're in the hood, they're in this environment, but their minds are far beyond it, right? And I can relate with that experience, right? So you have these two guys, they have this, this big dream, and then they come across the Freaknik experience, right? They're like, whoa, they've been hearing about it, like me. They were hearing about it from the uncles and cousins and older male figures, right? And they're like, yo, we're gonna go to this, right? They go to the event, and I won't dive into the details because I want you all to enjoy the book, but they have a situation that happened at the book. They have a situation that happened at the festival, and it really causes them to face some harsh realities, right? As a result of the situation that happens, Rottney ends up in prison, and through this experience, because of his character, and there's a character arc that we can get into. I don't know. It would take forever to discuss everything, but I'll just say this much: Rottney you'll see throughout the story, he's dealing with this hero complex, right? Because of how he was raised. And, I get into a little bit of the backstory of him not having his father. He has to grow up early, right? He has to grow up early and become the man of the house. So as a result of that, he develops this hero complex where he feels like he has to protect everyone he loves. In the story, at the Freaknik event, Zion gets into a situation and he immediately impulsively jumps into the protection mode. He protects Zion and he ends up protecting another, which we will talk about in a few minutes. One of the third main character, which is my favorite character. So he protects Zion and Tiffany, which we'll talk about shortly. And in doing so, he goes fully into this protection mode at the detriment of his own self. And he ends up in prison, and he refuses to help Zion to help him get out, because he's like, listen, I don't, we have this vision. I want you to finish the vision. Don't worry about me. I'll take this, I'll take the brunt of this situation. And as a result, it does cause resentment. It does cause him to be off track. And so he's in prison, he's dealing with this, and there is a time leap in the story where there's 10 years later, and now he's been in prison. This has been his life. But, another thing that I like to incorporate in my stories when I can is the concept of a relationship with God. So he stumbles across this experience, almost like Saul's Damascus Road kind of experience, right? Where Jesus meets him where he is, and he's able to kind of face the reality of how he's been walking and how he's been acting, his mindset, right? This whole mindset of this hero complex. And he finds his community within the prison, and he really starts to correct his thinking and his way of moving and his environment. And as a result, naturally things line up. Zion releases this article that everyone sees, and he mentions Rottney in it, and it kind of sparks Tiffany to see it, which starts the whole, the whole purpose of the story, where she comes back and she's now a lawyer when she has the means to help him get out of jail. So, but I'm kind of diving around because obviously I know the story, so I'm trying to stay centralized with my messaging here. But let's go back to Rottney. So Rottney, he's on this path now, right? He finds this relationship with the Lord. He finds community within the prison place, and now that realigns him on his purpose. And I think that's a lesson that I wanted the story to convey. Like, once you get realigned with God, then things start to line up. Things that might have taken a decade for you to figure out, once you align, it's like it speeds up. And that's what we see in this book, So the events happen where, Tiffany sees the article. She's immediately convicted. She goes and finds Rottney where he is, and she goes and visits him and tries to use her resources to get him out of jail. And also, the other part that happens is it speeds up the process of him being delivered from jail or, exonerated, but it also speeds up the process of him reconciling with Zion, right? Because he started resenting Zion, even though he did this for Zion, right? And now that he got realigned with God, now it's like, okay, now I get a chance to reconcile with with one of my best friends, one of my, guys that's been there from the beginning. So that's Rottney's kind of arc, and he comes full circle, full restoration at the end of the story. And I don't want to get the complete details, but meets his soulmate, gets restored, gets back on that filmmaking path, right? Zion, sorry, I got a little notes here just so I can stay bullet pointed. Zion's story arc is dealing with rejection and abandonment, right? So he's had to deal with the fact that, obviously he wanted to help Rottney through this entire situation, but Rottney rejected him, with the mindset that I'm trying to protect you. So I'm gonna keep you out of this, all of this ugliness. You go and live our vision for us. And, he's driven by that rejection and abandonment. And then he also is dealing with the rejection and abandonment from his own father, who because he, I mentioned a few minutes ago, he had this shop, right? And it was kind of his identity. Well, he lost the shop and it drove him to become an alcoholic, right? So now he starts to verbally and physically abuse Zion and his mother in Zion's youth. And now he has all this resentment for his dad, and because of the rejection and the abandonment that his dad ends up leaving him and his mom. And, Zion kind of has to go through life without his dad, on top of the fact that he has his best friend who rejects him. So he uses this, right, as fuel to make him driven, right? And he drives himself right up to the top of Hollywood. He's the movies that him and Rottney came up with, he's producing these movies. He's top director, top film producer in the country type thing, right? And he's having all the success. He has a beautiful wife, a supportive wife, but he's still empty. He's still not complete. He's still dealing with that hurt from his dad and from Rottney. And he's forced to, face this head on when he finds out that his father is terminally ill and he has a few days to live. He finds out at the last second. He goes to visit his dad, and then this is where his kind of arc hits his peak, right? And he has a chance to have a conversation and a reconciliation with his father that fuels him to go back and now deal with the issues with Rottney. And you see, his reluctance to get involved with Rottney's situation because of the rejection. Now he is more fueled to go beyond whatever rejection Rottney is trying to give him and help his friend above all means. So it plays on that theme on Am I My Brother's Keeper, right? You see it on both ends. You see Rottney being his brother's keeper and protecting him against all odds. And then you got Zion, who has to get over the rejection from his friend to say, I'm still gonna protect you anyway, and I am your keeper, right? I am gonna show up for you, even when it's tough, even when it's not convenient. And, obviously he gets a chance to reconcile with his dad before his dad passes away, reconciles with Rottney, and he helps restore Rottney's path on the dream that they started in the Dream Machine, right? They were dreaming this whole path and they got to do it. And, and the last thing I'll say on this portion, Tiffany's arc is very interesting as well. She is kind of like a sub storyline in this whole story, but it's a very powerful story. She's from the Atlanta area. She goes to the Freaknik event, and she is born with the quote unquote silver spoon in her mouth, right? She has all the resources. Her parents are in politics and wealthy, and but she is desperate for this Black experience. So she's over at Spelman, and she goes with her new sorority sisters to the event, just trying to take in the Black experience that she didn't get a chance to experience growing up in a wealthy environment. And she gets in there, and just the first time she steps out like this, of course, she comes into this traumatic experience. And like I said, Rottney has to save her and Zion from the traumatic experience. And she's left ever changed. Her parents didn't allow her to testify or get involved in anything with the case because they wanted to, they wanted to what's the word I want to look? They didn't want her to have any association with it, right? So they got it wiped away. And as a result, she never does anything to help Rottney. However, it does change her trajectory of her future. Like she's now driven to help those who are, who don't have the same resources and the same opportunities that she has. And she goes into a career of law, right? She goes into law, and she becomes a public defender, and she's helping others in those situations. But she always has this lingering thing, like, whatever happened with that guy? It's not until Zion writes the article that's in, a popular magazine, and she sees the article and she realizes, wait, that's the guy that was at the event. And she realizes, like, wait, let me find out if I can find him. And like I said, that sets the tone of the present day story, where she goes back and she finds Rottney. She goes to meet him, and even against Rottney's, reluctance, she's like, no, I'm going to help you because you once helped me. And you see through her story arc that she she goes back and she does the thing that is necessary to help Rottney. And in the process of doing that, she ends up finding her soulmate, right? So it's a beautiful story of kind of like all of these things playing at once, and these characters are navigating through these real world situations, and you just see them come out on the other end. Like I said, as an author, I get to write their perfect ending, right? And not perfect, like there's no problem, but it's an ending that we would all want as we navigate through our lives situation. So I know that was a lot, but I wanted to hit those characters,
I absolutely love it. I love how you were able to describe, just really the scenes, how everyone is able to understand it and all the different perspectives, right? You have, Rottney's perspective, you have, even the amazing woman, you have her perspective. She went into law, but she was able to serve in the way she understood, and she was able to stay in her lane and what she was doing. I love how I feel that, what am I thinking of? Redemption. It was redemption all the way on everyone's process, right? When it comes to that, the redemption, forgiveness, all of that, right? I feel that, we're all able to learn something, when it comes to Zion and Rottney's process. They all had a process to go into. I feel that it respected it a lot.
Yes, that's true. And it's so amazing how, during the writing process, the characters evolved, right? I started off and I knew how Zion, I knew his character, I knew how he operated, I knew how Rottney operated, but their story of their redemption story, it literally came to life as I wrote. And this is how I knew it was a God-breathed thing, because it started off just telling a story about how this event happened and Freaknik and what happened afterwards, but it really became a story of redemption for each of their story arcs, including Tiffany. She started as just an idea of one of the girls that was not one of the, but there was people at the scene, and at first it was just, oh yeah, they saved this girl, but then as I was writing that portion of the story, I was like, no, there's more to this girl. She's just not some random girl, and her whole backstory came to life. And as her backstory came to life, that set the tone for the soulmate connection between her and Rottney, So, you start to see, it started to just take a life of its own. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, this makes sense, So I definitely, agree. They each had their own story of redemption, and it just made the story so much richer,
Yeah, I really feel that it made it richer even more and more, because everyone was able to be their authentic self. And I believe that it took a process, right, in order for everyone to see it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe, Rottney needs to be where Rottney was to understand his process too. He had a lot of forgiveness. You had Zion, he needed some forgiveness as well. And Tiffany came in, she needed to understand herself and forgiveness for where she's at, how she plugged into it. I feel that it was something about that when it comes to each and every party. I feel that, I don't know if you thought that way when it came to you writing this amazing book, but, for it to unfold in this way, because everyone takes their own take, when it comes to this. Do you agree?
Yeah, 1,000%. I think 1,000%. I think there's themes that naturally evolved in this book that there is a personal take home for everyone. Like even Tiffany, like another theme that you can pull from her is her discovering her voice, right? She having parents who very, suggestive, right? They had a whole future planned out for her, and she was supposed to go on a different trajectory, right? They wanted her to go into politics, but she, after having this life-altering experience, she literally went down the calling that she was already destined to go down, right? And even with her and Rottney's, the way that they met, right? It was in a traumatic situation. There still ended up being beauty from it, right? It's like they were already going to cross paths. They were soulmates. They're going to cross paths at some point. So it's amazing how God can use darkness, right? He can use something that's birthed in darkness and make it something beautiful, right? And I think, so there's a lot of layered theming that is, and like I said, as a child of God, I realized that I'm just the conduit that God wanted to use to tell the story,
Yeah, I feel that, in this process, you learned a lot, when it came to, just, this creation and it's called a book. But I believe it's bigger than just a book. I believe it's giving a voice to those that are probably feel that they have been broken down, that they have no good, they're nothing going to be great for them. I feel that this is giving them a different perspective, a different vision, absolutely. That they do have something to build, because we are creators. I feel that you're creative and wherever you need to be in.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like no matter where you start, no matter how old you are, no matter where the situation is, like God can take you right where you are and put you where you need to be, right? And you see that in the main characters. You see it in all three of them, right? Even in Zion, with all his success, he still had emptiness. So I was able to show different perspectives of the need for realigning, the need for addressing things that we might try to overlook or feel like we're not ready to address. And then the other side of that, right? Like the lifestyle, the place you want to be, how when you go through that fire, that refining, you get to the other side and it's so much more than you even could imagine, right? So you take Zion in a physical prison and realizing that there's still hope even in a physical prison, and just realigning with God, series of events can happen supernaturally that get you out of that, right? You got Zion, like I said, he's at the top of the top, but he's empty. He has a beautiful wife, has a child on the way. He has millions of dollars, but he still hasn't dealt with the hurt that has been laying hold on him for over a decade. So he has to get free from that. And on the other side of that is restoration. It's the things he really wanted, right? And then of course, Tiffany, you have her discovering herself, and biggest thing for her, she was able to set her own path, right? She was destined to follow her parents' path, and she discovered who she really was. And there's nothing more fulfilling than to be on the path you're supposed to be on than what someone else tries to put you on. So yeah, it's so amazing. And then for me, this is just, like I said, it's a mirror of my life. It's a mirror of things that I'm seeing play out in my life in different ways. And that's the beautiful thing about being a creator, right? You get a chance to share with the world in a very creative way what's really happening on the inside of you. This is why I mentioned at the beginning, this is just the beginning for me as an author, because there's so many more stories that I know that I'll tell. And even, this has birthed in me the desire to eventually become a filmmaker and really start to bring these stories to the screen, to the live screen. So, and TV shows or whatever have you. So I know it's a process. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know God is able to do it, and, my job is to just show up. And that's what I've been learning in the season. I would show up to these writing sessions, and they would be impromptu. Sometimes I'd just be up, wee hours of the morning. I got an inspiration of this part of this chapter or whatever have you, and I'll get to work on that. And I realized it's not about me having control of where the book is going and how successful it's going to be or all these things. My job is to show up and to lend my talent. And when I do that, amazing things start to happen. And I'm excited for that process to keep happening over and over in my life,
Yeah, I like that. I love how you said that. It is a trust factor, just trusting in God to just unleash everything that needs to be unleashed and knowing that it's all going to work out, and that takes a lot, especially when I'm be honest with you, when you're just educated, when you're used to going to college and getting this way in this process, and you're like, hey, I got this under control. God, I got this. And God's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yes. Oh man, you're hitting it on the head, and that's the thing that I think has been the biggest learning opportunity for me. I have, in this last decade of wanting to create, I have had this comfort, I would say, in being able to control situations. Like, let's say within the web design world, it's like, I know how to build websites. I know the process, right? I know like the back of my hand. So I was very comfortable in that space, but I think it wasn't challenging me to tap into the creative that I've always been. And I think jumping on this side of storytelling got me back to that basis where I had to trust, right? I couldn't rely on my process. God was literally creating a new process in the process of me writing the book, right? Like the process was being developed as I was writing the book. I couldn't go and take someone's training or anything like that. It was really, this was God directing me. And I think through this, it's showing me that this is how I had to do everything. I can't get back to your point. Like, it's like, I can't lean on my education and my, what I know I can do, right? It's like, well, yeah, you've done that already. Now, what I do for you, when I'm going to take you, you're always going to rely on me. But if you can get comfortable with that, if you get comfort in that, trusting me on that level, I'll take you to the heights, right? And hey, we all want to go to the heights. So that's what I'm excited. And I'm like, I don't have to know how I'm going to become a filmmaker and how I'm going to do those things. I just know that it's something I'm going to trust them on the path. And hopefully we'll have an interview, months from now, years from now. I'm like, hey, we're doing my first movie. I don't know, hey, I'm saying it here first because I believe them,
Absolutely. You already know it. That's one thing about it is that we're in the midst of, this growth and how we're able to have so many areas that we relate to. I feel you. Just being able to trust and knowing that it's all going to work itself out. And just know that it's going to be areas that I didn't even realize I was able to do. Areas that you didn't realize you were able to do. And it's like, but God knew, and by us trusting in him, and everything all flows together. Even, the things that we thought that we had to really control, like the finances. We need to know, hey, how this is going to work. How am I going to make money? What, I got a family. I got these kids, Lord God, what? And God's like, I already took that into context. I got it. Trust me. And then when you trust him, it opens up more than you can ask or think. And you're able to like, wow, God, you are so right. God's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's like, I knew the whole time. If you just trust me, right? Right. No, I 1,000% agree. 1,000%.
Absolutely. One thing about it, it starts off with this book. It starts out the dream machine. It starts off with this, but I already know it's going to evolve into something bigger. You already said it yourself. It's going to be another book that's coming out, and you already got your pen. Yep. You understand what's going to happen. And when it comes to that, it's so amazing. What is your vision, after this amazing book creation? What is your vision? Another book, or is it a community? What is your vision? What do you see?
Yeah, so great question. I just came from vacation, and like the Lord did with this book, he downloaded another story. This is a story I wrote a treatment. I learned in terms. I wrote a treatment for it back in 2015, I want to say. When I was on vacation, and a lot of times when you get a chance to unplug, this is when God can, he can speak. So this story, it's actually going to be a 3-part book. A three-part series. So it's going to be 3 books, and I'm calling it. This could change, but right now this is the name. It's going to be called the Legacy Love Series, and this is going to be more of a romantic story. And this story, I've actually already started writing it. I've written the whole outline. I've actually did the prologue and chapter 1. So I'm already in the middle of it. But it's an exciting story. It's the story of these 2 teenagers. They meet at a cookout, and they meet at a family cookout, and they're 14 years old at the time. And I tell the story from both of their perspectives. This event it's this whole concept of love at first sight, right? So they see each other, they're enamored with each other. They're like, wow, this person's this, and that. And then they don't see each other for another 4 years. The current story takes place in their senior of high school, and they're coming back, but now it's for a funeral. And it's one of their parents' great friends, and it's kind of like a godfather for them. He passes away from a freak accident. So they brought back to this funeral, and they see each other again, and they have those same feelings they felt when they were the teens. They're like, whoa, that's the person, I haven't seen him. And then they're asking themselves, why haven't I seen him? It seems like our families are connected. And they started to discover that there is a whole storyline between their parents, and one parent dated the other parent in college, and they broke up, and then the other parents married. So there's this whole triangle thing that happened with the past that has set their future, and they're dealing with this whole concept of their budding romance and love for each other and interest in each other. But then they have this history with their parents that is obviously kind of making things a little difficult for them. It's almost like a Romeo and Juliet, right? Two families that don't necessarily get along, but we're actually in love, right? So it plays on that storyline. And the current book, the first book I'm writing, is their whole experience of how they, they fall in love, and they figure out this whole love thing. And then book 2 is a prequel. Go back and we tell the story of what happened with the parents and how everything played out, and we get into the details and why it ended up the way it ended up. And then I go back into a sequel as a third book where you talk about their college experience. So the main book, the first book, takes them all the way up into college, and they leave off to college. So in the sequel, they've gone through the college years, and then we talk about, do they end up together, how they end up together, and they kind of start their life, what that looks like. So it's a whole 3-part thing. I'm super excited to dive into it. And, one of the things I will say through this journey, I became, a reader. I wasn't really a reader before, but I'm like, hey, I'm going to be writing books, and I want people to read my books. I got to start reading some books. So a lot of my writings have been inspired by some amazing Black authors. Shout out to Angie Thomas. She did now for the Echoes of the Dream Machine, this is where I got some inspiration. So she did The Hate You Give and Concrete Rose. And then I think something off the wall, off the chain is another, but it's like 3 different books, but they're all kind of connected in the same world. Then another author, Nick Stone, who did Dear Martin and Dear Justice. And then later, she just recently did this year, Dear Manny, but they're like a 3-part series book. Those informed a lot of the storytelling and world building that I used in Echo the Dream Machine. So I've taken that, and then that was my process for writing the first book. So I started getting to, YA romance books and things of that nature. And, this current book I'm writing is the result of some of the books I've read. One of the ones I literally just read was Love Radio from Ebony Liddell, and I'm enamored with her world building, right? So you can see some of the influence of these storytellers and how it's helping me build worlds and everything. So I'm excited to dive into this next book. That's like the next thing. From there, I don't know. I'm promoting this book, obviously, Echoes of the Dream Machine, working on that book. And, like I said, down the path, I don't know how now, but I know God is going to somehow shift this into, making these live adaptations, whether it be TV show or movie or whatever have you. I'm open to either of those options.
I'm loving it. I'm open to it too. I feel that, your world is getting even bigger and more broader. Honestly, you are an author now. So you have other authors that are going to listen to what you are doing, and they're going to be inspired to write more books. And that's when I feel that on your, how we have the bottom of the part of us, we'll talk about who we are. And I feel like It's going to be author, speaker, coach.
Hey.
I feel like, filmmaker. I'm just throwing it out there. I just know I see in, what God is doing within you. The sky really is the limit.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It means a lot coming from you. I really do appreciate that. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like I'm stepping in, kind of dealing with the themes of with the characters in Echoes of the Dream Machine, Zion, Rottney, and Tiffany. I feel like I have been on my personal redemption, path and realignment path. And I think at some point, you start trying to be an adult and just trying to, do what you think is right, kind of what we're talking about. And God, I feel like God has realigned me back to that path where I'm a creator. It's where He always intended me to be. And He's letting me know you can provide for your family, and you can chart the future that you believe in for doing the thing that I called you to do, to create. You don't have to become, a financial advisor or something that where you can just make a lot of money. Nothing against those career paths, right? But I know I was called to be a creator, and I feel like I'm being restored to that. And to your point, I think my life will open up to these different titles, and I would love to have those different titles. That'd be great. I received that.
receive it. I receive it for you. I'm telling you, I'm just speaking what I'm seeing and just what God is really doing within you. The sky truly is the limit. And just just writing this book is truly amazing. This is just the beginning. You got to let us know, how, what's the last thing that you really want the Confused to Focus fam to really be engaged in? Like, what are you seeing? What is it that you envision to tell them what they should do as well? Because they're on their pins and needs, wanting to know what to do moving forward as an author.
Oh, I love that question. I would say it's never too late, right? It's never too late. There's never, for me, like I started off saying at the beginning, I didn't feel like I was an author. I didn't feel like I was a writer. But in 2025, the resources are available where you can have tools help you structure your thinking in the way that you go about things. And that's just in the creative space. Whatever your space is, that you find yourself in, it's never too late to pursue it. You don't, it's not about you having all the resources. Like I said earlier, it's about just showing up. Half of the battle is showing up, and you get more on the path than you have when you started, right? You may feel, a lot of us, we feel like we have to get all our ducks in a row. We have everything prepared before we start pursuing something. And a lot of times God's like, look, I just need you to show up. And if you show up, I'll talk to this person for you. I'll open this door for you. I'll give you this resource. And I think for me, that's exactly what happened with this book. And I know that can happen for you. I know this can happen for those authors out there, those creators, right? Those content creators. It's really just starting. Just start. Like you gotta stop overthinking it, and half of the battle is just showing up.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I'm definitely understanding everything that you're saying. I appreciate you so much, Cleeton Gumbs. It's hard to call you that. It's like I'm calling you Cleet the Geek. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. I wanted to put Cleet the Geek on there, but I'm just trying to, as an author, put my full name. But I'm Cleet the Geek. Everybody knows it's Cleet the Geek, so I go interchangeable, so I get it.
Absolutely. Listen, you are really telling us, family, who you are. We're all a family here. I appreciate you. They're able to see my amazing friend, who is an author, a speaker, an influencer, filmmaker. I mean, he really is a legendary. Cleet the Geek. He is truly a world-renowned friend of mine, has done so much, and he really is wanting to share with all of you. Please let them know how they can continue to follow you and everything that you're doing, and also how they can definitely purchase not only the book and also your merch.
Hey, for sure. So, a couple of things, right? So, I'm a creator, so I got a couple of things going on. As far as the book, you can definitely get the book on Amazon right now. You just search Echoes of the Dream Machine, or you can search Cleeton Gumbs. You pull up my author page. Either way, you'll see the book. So definitely support there. We have it available in the paperback, and then we have it available in the Kindle version as well. Hopefully in the near future, we can get the audiobook going. Going to be working on that as well. But that's a whole nother process, right? But we'll get that someday soon. And then, you can follow me on social media platforms on Instagram is Cleeton Gumbs or Cleet the Geek. I got 2 pages. On Facebook is Cleeton Gumbs. And on YouTube is Cleet the Geek, right? So Cleet the Geek, I do movie reviews. I do, all kind of content. And then the other thing, the kind of other side of the shop, I'm an influencer with my family. We're called Life with the Gums. So you can follow us on Instagram. You could just search Life with the Gums on Instagram, on YouTube, and then I forgot to mention TikTok. All these platforms now. So Cleeton Gumbs on TikTok. No Cleet the Geek on TikTok. It's just Cleeton Gumbs on TikTok. And I don't think we have a Life with the Gums on TikTok, but I know for sure we got Instagram and YouTube. And you'll see me and my amazing family. We do a lot of Disney content, park content. We do commercials. So we're just in the Epic Universe, the new launch of the Epic Universe Park. We're in that commercial. So we do some amazing things as influencers. So please definitely support, all the likes, all of the comments. We take all of that. I appreciate this opportunity. And Keisha, man, you're just amazing. You're just amazing. I thank you for giving me this platform just to talk a little bit and share my heart about this amazing book and the creative process, because it's truly a God-given thing, and it just keeps giving. It keeps giving, it keeps giving. So I appreciate you for this opportunity just to share my genius.
I appreciate you as well. God is really doing great things within you and everything that you are. And it's just evolving even more and more just within the purpose that he has for us all, right? So, of course, you already know the last question I have to ask. What does success mean to you?
Wow. That's that, and that question has the answer for this question has evolved so many times throughout the years. But right now, success to me means obedience to God, and I think the more I obey the world, the more my world gets unlocked, and I talk about this concept in my last statement. My final statement was, showing up. And I think that's it. That's what success looks like. If I show up, and I trust God, right? Although there might be contradictory at the moment that I show up, eventually, if I keep showing up day after day, it's going to morph into what he has for me. And I know the plans that he has for me, they're good, not evil, to bring me to an expected end. So I know it's going to be good. I know it's going to work out, right? So that's what success is, just obeying God and trusting that he's going to get me where I need to go.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Wow. Cleeton Gumbs, listen, my friend, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you are. You already know it. I'm wanting you to come back on the show. You have to be back on the Confused to Focus TV team to share everything that you're doing and all the amazing projects that you have. So I just appreciate you for taking the time out right now.
Anytime. It's my pleasure. And make sure y'all support this show. She's amazing. She's always been amazing. I believe everything she's doing. And I believe in everything she's doing. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Wow, family. Listen, Cleeton Gumbs, my amazing friend. I appreciate him so much for being here, taking the time out with us and just telling us a little bit about him and how this amazing book has really transformed his life. Listen, if you have not received your copy, family, go and get your copy right now. This is an amazing book that you're going to want to have, not only just for you, but for your family and for your friends and for your influencing team. They need to have this book because it's a testament of what God is truly doing within all of us, as far as us being creatives and for us to be able to enlighten ourselves even more from every day. Family, I appreciate you all. You already know how I end my shows. And all you do, lead with confidence, love, and understanding always. Be blessed, everyone. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you lean in and be back with us on next Thursday for another episode. Have a great day.